Today's episode is brought to you by Proud Wolves. It is Proud Wolves' mission to build stronger local communities by using global systems. Our main focus is the integration of children in the local community to boost their sense of purpose and belonging and reduce mental health issues and suicide rates. We want to make sure that children all over the world have free access to cultural activities and sport. Proud Wolves helps organizations to change their income models and stops them relying on membership fees for children. Find Proud Wolves on Google for more information. Now, get ready for your All-NBA Team of the Week. Goeiedag, enchantée, and welcome to this week's episode of 824 Presents All-NBA Team of the Week. Are you ready for playoff basketball? Because I am. The playing games have been decided, and the biggest surprise is the New Orleans Pelicans, kicking the LA Clippers out. If the Clippers could have used Paul George, he was stuck in healthy safety protocols, it might have been a different story, but the Pelicans have deserved a playoff run, based on their consistent play in the last couple of months. They can prepare themselves now for a possibly very short playoff series against the Suns. The second team in the West who made it to the playoffs are the Timberwolves, and they celebrated like they just won the whole thing. In the East, Brooklyn had no problems with the Cavaliers, even though it got pretty close at the end, and they meet Boston in the first round. The Cavaliers fell short in their second chance game against Trae Young and the Hawks, who now have to play Miami. This week, we'll lift out the 5 most interesting playoff matchups for the first round. The 5 series most likely to go the distance or end up with an upset. Get ready for your All-NBA Team of the Week. Before we move on, I'd like to talk to you about 824. 824 is created by Proud Wolves with the intention to provide children with an opportunity to learn and play basketball at their own pace and completely free. We have created different courses which are available on the website to improve their basketball skills. But our real mission is to help disadvantaged children by building and upgrading basketball courts around the world and supply them with basketball gear to play with. Come and find our website and grab a t-shirt to support the course. Now, let's get back to the show.
Pick one!
Our first pick of the week is the Boston Celtics against the Brooklyn Nets, or Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown against Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. This is by far the most exciting series in round 1. But, in fairness, pretty much any series featuring Brooklyn was going to be the most exciting series. It's very rarely that you see such great players as KD and Kyrie as a 7 seed, playing for their lives from the start of the playoffs. The Celtics have gotten a very raw deal, having to play these superstars early in the piece. But that doesn't mean that the Celtics are without a chance. In fact, quite the opposite. If there's one team in the East that can handle the Nets, it would be the Bucks. Haha, but the Celtics are a close second. The Celtics have the 3rd best record in the league since January 1st, behind the Suns and the Mavericks. Tatum and Brown have finally proven once and for all that they are a lethal duo that has no problem playing together. Flanked by potential Defensive Player of the Year Marcus Smart, who all of a sudden turned into a pass-first point guard, and a rejuvenated Al Horford, this team is not scared of the Nets. Even without Robert Williams, who made such a jump he should be considered for 6th man, these Celtics have enough firepower on offense to go toe-to-toe with KD. And that is where the Nets will come unstuck. If they come across teams that can put up as many points as themselves, the game will be decided by defense, and the Nets have no defense. On the other end of the court, Boston is one of the best defensive teams in the league. And this is exactly why this series is one of the most exciting ones in the first round. No matter what happens, we will lose a potential championship-winning team in round 1. On top of that, these teams have a history. So far, in every playoff series these teams have played, the Nets were the better of the Celtics. Jason Kidd killed them in 2002 and 2003, and last season, when the Nets still had Harden, the Big Three outplayed Tatum. Then, of course, these teams have some history off the court as well, with the Nets taking on old mates Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce in return for a few role players and, more importantly, 3 draft picks. They eventually turned into Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. A massive win for the Celtics, and the Nets had nothing until they were able to sign KD and Kyrie. I'm really looking forward to this series. It's going to be a close one that could run well into overtime in Game 7.
Pick 2!
Our second pick of the week is the Memphis Grizzlies against the Minnesota Timberwolves, 2 young teams with almost no playoff experience. Yes, the Grizzlies made it to the playoffs last season, but they lost to the Jazz in 5 games, and even though Ja was incredible, they never really stood a chance to beat Utah. If we go back earlier, the Grizzlies had a nice few years between 2011 and 2017. The Timberwolves, on the other hand, haven't made it to the playoffs since 2018, when Jimmy Butler, Andrew Wiggins and Cat lost in the first round against the James Harden Rockets. Before that, we have to go back to 2004, when Kevin Garnett and Latrell Sprewell lost against the three-peat Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. That's like a lifetime ago. But if everything goes to plan, both teams are embarking on years of playoff victories and heartbreak, starting now. These are two teams that hold the future of the Western Conference in their hands. Give it a few years, and this could become a staple matchup in the Western Conference Finals. Cat, D'Lo, and Ant-Man against Ja, Triple J, and the most scrappiest bunch of role players you have ever seen. The Timberwolves are closer to their championship window now, with Cat and D'Lo already 26. The Grizzlies duo is only 22, and they have some time to put the right pieces around them. But none of these players care about a timeline. That's a worry for the front office. These guys care about winning, every time they step onto the court. This season, they met 4 times, and each time the home team finished with a win. It was close on every occasion except once. On November 20th, the Grizzlies absolutely smashed the Timberwolves, 138-95, setting all sorts of NBA records. Now, that was only a single game, and it doesn't really mean that much. But if we look at every head-to-head these teams have had in the past, these teams are so evenly matched it's not funny. They've played 101 games, and the Wolves have the slightest of edges, leading 51-50. We could see this series go to 7 games, since both teams are so closely matched. And I give the Grizzlies the slight edge since they have the extra home game. One thing that could derail this prediction is decompression on Minnesota's end, because they seemed really relieved just to make it into the playoffs.
Pick 3!
Our third pick of the week is the Philadelphia 76ers against the Toronto Raptors. Philly is the team with the biggest question marks around them. What James Harden will we get to see? Is Joel Embiid going to be able to stay on the court? How will they fare in Toronto without their star defender Matisse Thybulle? What can Tyrese Maxey show us in the playoffs? How much can the likes of Tobias Harris and Danny Green contribute? What is Coach Doc Rivers doing in the offseason? There are nothing but questions surrounding this Philly team, and they have a lot to work out. Toronto, on the other hand, knows exactly what it is capable of and who will be contributing. Coach Nick Nurse has been playing playoff basketball since the All-Star break, mainly focusing on a 7-man lineup, putting his fate into a reborn Pascal Siakam and a potential Rookie of the Year, Scotty Barnes. The Raptors have one big problem. They don't have anyone to throw at Embiid. But other than that, they have plenty of defensive firepower to throw at the rest of the Sixers roster. They might use the old, let Embiid go nuts as long as we can stop everybody else tactic. On the offensive end, Toronto has plenty of weapons. Siakam has averaged 24 points and 8 rebounds a game since the All-Star game, and he's finally looking like the Siakam we saw when Toronto won the title. Fred VanVleet is one of the best three-point shooters in the league, averaging nearly 40% on 10 attempts a game, and you can count on it that number will go up in the playoffs. It has to go up in the playoffs. Scotty Barnes was fantastic in the regular season, and I have no doubt that he'll continue that run in this series too. OG is a defensive beast, and Gary Trent Jr. is a scoring machine. I'm not convinced this Raptor team is capable of a massive upset this season, but they're definitely capable of upsetting a distraught Philly team. Philly will have to show up in their home games. They can't afford to lose a game at home. If they can win those first 2 games, they can travel peacefully to Toronto. They could even afford to lose both games in Toronto and still take the series down the line. But if they drop 1 game at home, all of a sudden the pressure on this team will be huge. And the pressure is already at boiling point. The Philly audience has no patience and will not want to see another offseason with Embiid wasted. Embiid himself will not want to see another postseason wasted. Can Harden prove his worth to this organization? I'm sure he wants to, with $260 million on the line. This series is going to be a very interesting one. But, as usual with Philly, more so because of what goes on off the court than on the court.
Pick 4!
Our fourth pick of the week is the Golden State Warriors against the Denver Nuggets. This is the series of the injured. Basically, the team that comes out the healthiest will win this series. Luckily for the Warriors, Steph Curry is back and ready to play. That means that the Warriors can count on their preferred starting 5, with Curry playing alongside Klay, Draymond, Andrew Wiggins and Kevon Looney. In the Denver camp, we're still waiting on some good news. Shams Charania of The Athletic reported last week that Jamal Murray will probably not return in the playoffs, but MPJ could be fairly close to a return, maybe even during the series. Then again, if he doesn't make it back in the series, there might not be another series to return to. You know, if the Warriors are able to knock off the Nuggets. They're definitely capable. The Warriors finished 3rd in the regular season, and that's pretty impressive given Curry missed about 20 games, Draymond nearly missed 40 games, and Klay only played about 30-odd games this season. This team has relied on their role players all season, probably why Wiggins made it into the All-Star game, although K-pop fans made sure that he didn't miss it. Jordan Poole made an incredible leap this season, and he looks like a seasoned splash brother on the court. He'll play a very important role for the Warriors these playoffs, no doubt about it. And vets like Iguodala, Porter and Bjelica are always tough to win the bench minutes against. And that is where Denver will struggle when Nikola Jokic is not on the court. His on-off numbers this regular season were off the chart. The difference this season was nearly plus 20 in 100 possessions. That's huge. Jokic will have to pick 4 games throughout the series where he can be so dominant that it doesn't matter what the rest of the team does. 4 games where he will need to put up Will Chamberlain numbers in order to beat these Warriors. It is very unlikely it will happen, but after the season we've seen Jokic play, I'm not interested in betting against him. Then again, he might not have anything left in the tank after the season he played. This could be a walk in the park for the Warriors and exactly the warm-up they need in the lead-up to the clashes with the Grizzlies and the Suns.
Pick 5.
Our 5th pick of the week is the Miami Heat against the Atlanta Hawks. A series between the number 1 and number 8 is rarely an interesting matchup, and chances are pretty high that it won't be any different this season. Only, it doesn't happen very often that the number 8 in the league has one of the best offensive players in the league. Trae Young made more points than any other player in the regular season and dished out the most assists too. He will be a handful for Miami to control, and with Trae, there is the chance he will go off on any given night. And he showed us last season that he can pretty much do it whenever it counts, leading the Hawks to the conference finals. But Miami is still the number 1 seed, and they're a well-deserved number 1 seed based on the whole season. They fought hard and led the league for a very long time. And yet, something doesn't seem right. For a lot of people, including me, Miami is not the favorite to come out of the league, out of the East. In fact, I wouldn't even put them in my top 3. And funnily enough, that in itself will make Miami a favorite, because these Bulldogs love to be the underdog. They live off negative commentary and being disrespected. Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo and the rest are out for revenge after losing the NBA Finals in the bubble against the Lakers. They want to prove to everyone that they were deserving to be there and even deserved it to win. The Hawks have something to prove too. Somewhere early in the season, Trae said that they're having a hard time getting motivated for regular season games. And the Hawks really struggled to make it in, but they are now in the playoffs. Let's see if they still struggle to get motivated. Trae has made it hard on himself because he has to win this series, otherwise that quote will end up biting him in the ass. We're going to see 2 scrappy teams who don't want to lose in the first round, and they're going to go hard at each other. The first team that can win an away game will likely to be the winner of the series. My money is on Miami. Who do you got? This was our All-NBA Team of the Week. Please share the podcast and give us 5 stars. If you have any questions, contact us on a24office@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you next week. Ballers out.